It has to be measurable. It has to be in black and white. And you have to know why you are better this time versus last time. And you also have to know going into that next workout, right? If you're going to be actually training, you have to know what your goal is. You have to have an objective. I have to do this in the workout today so that I'm better than the last time. Creatine. So, with a lot of people with creatine, Alyssa, first of all, we need to cover the first thing. Creatine monohydrate, micronized creatine monohydrate is the form of creatine you need. You don't need all these other versions of creatine that are marketed. They're junk. Creatine monohydrate, when you hear about research on creatine, that's what they're referring to. 5 grams per day is what early research has been shown to produce performance benefits in the gym. They're currently looking at higher amounts for all kinds of overall health and wellness reasons, including cognitive function in populations where cognitive function is declining, so aging populations. So pure creatine monohydrate, that's what you need. At least 5 grams per day, that's what you need. Now, if you take it on an empty stomach, you may get gastrointestinal distress, which means you'll get diarrhea. If you're playing around with 20 or 30 grams per day, you're probably going to have upset stomach, gastrointestinal distress, diarrhea. But for most people, if they're not taking the 5 grams on an empty stomach, they typically have no problem. And by most people, it's damn near 100% of the population. So I would look at what kind of creatine are you taking? I would shoot for 5 grams. I wouldn't do more than that. And I wouldn't take it first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee on an empty stomach. I just had a female, approximately 60 years of age, shared the same thing. She said, my stomach is always upset and it's the creatine. I quit taking the creatine, quit happening. I said, when are you taking it? She said, first thing in the morning with my coffee. I said, all right. I said, what kind is it? It was just creatine monohydrate. I said, okay. I said, if I may make a suggestion, how about you train midday, you train over your work lunch hour, and then you eat and go back to work. If I may make a suggestion, how about we have the creatine with the meal we have after our workout that's done over lunch? And in doing so, you would have had, sure, your morning coffee and probably some water and probably breakfast and maybe a mid-morning snack, and then our workout, and then our post-workout meal, our nutrition, and our creatine. We're weeks down the road from that, actually a couple months now. No more gastrointestinal distress from the creatine. So the issue is resolved. So Kristen, the biggest thing is like you should be able to like keep it simple. For progress, nothing is easier than a double progressive, period. Nothing. You know, if you did 100 pounds 11 times today and do 100 pounds 12 times next week, without a doubt, you are better. It's in black and white. It'll be right in front of you. Other questions, supplement questions are fine. If I'm able to answer them, I'm more than happy to do so. It's rare that someone may bring up something regarding supplements that I'm not familiar with. Yeah, you bet, Peggy. Thanks for hanging out and joining us today, giving up part of your day. I appreciate it. Peggy has 2 drug-free pro cards for those wondering. It's kind of a big deal. If you look at training in college, so collegiate athletics, definitely professional athletics, there's always a goal, there's a plan, and there's a way to measure progress while executing that plan relative to that goal. It's a given. Like no collegiate strength and conditioning coach, no collegiate athletic department will allow their athletes to go in and randomly do things. Yet when we look at competitors off to their own devices, training in the typical commercial gym, it's random. You know, it's a back and bicep day. Well, what are you going to do? Well, maybe some of this, some of that, and a little of this, depending on if it's crowded. Well, that's not training. And nowhere in sport would somebody think that that's training, and nowhere in regular life, right? Like I've been saying this a lot lately, like success is a planned event. Nowhere in your life in any area are you successful without having a goal and a plan. and then some way to measure your progress while you execute the plan. And it's easy with weight training, it's easy, you keep it simple, but if you can't say why you're better, you're not better. It's a guess. There's no I thinks, right? Well, I think I'm better. Well, I know I lifted more today than last time. Well, how much more? I love people who say that. And I say, well, how much more? And like, well, I think I did. Well, how are you going to be successful with I think? That's not a strategy or an approach. What's my take on doing one body part weekly? So you mean like just training legs once per week? I would say from experience, especially the last 8 or 10 years, most of my clients, male or female, most of my clients will train legs 2 or 3 days a week, and they'll have 2 upper body days. And that seems to be producing better results. Now, there's nuances within the programming and how it's structured to make that possible. It's not just a matter of we had 3 leg days, so that's why it works. There's a programming aspect. There's not, well, we have 2 upper body days, so that's why it works. There's a programming aspect within that. One extra set of something else. I don't follow the question, Roxanne. Tell me a bit more. So on back day supersetting chest, we'll do that. Again, it depends on what the goal is. And for somebody getting on stage, it often depends on where they are relative to taking stage. I like efficient workouts. I like supersets because they make workouts more efficient. Sometimes I'll, again, depending on the individual, depending on where we are in the training year, depending on what their current goals, objectives are, and what the opportunities are for them. Sometimes I'll superset same muscle group, right? Like I'll do that. I mentioned it with legs. I have a high volume leg day that's exactly what we do. We superset 2 specific exercises for quads. But it's not uncommon for my clients when we're looking at maximizing fat loss, maintaining maximum muscle mass, for us to superset exactly as you wrote, chest and back. It's an efficient way to train. We might get a little bit more caloric expenditure because of the interval nature that we can make the programming,